episode 62 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Drogan1701. With me is man. We celebrating Father's Day this weekend or not? Greendragoon.
That's who's How do you get this thing before it happens?
And we have the newest official towel boy for the U.S. World Cup soccer team, Hippiejohn.
Towel boy.
It's an important position.
It's an important position. I'll take it. Sure.
An important position that comes with free tickets.
Yeah, free tickets. There you go.
Free tickets. Markhawkman is unable to join us this week, but he was had his mission reviewed on Priority 1, so congratulations for that. And we have... Welcome back to the show.
I'm here again, yay.
All right, so I want to start tonight here in our last episode. So I want to get him to weigh in on some of the stuff from last week.
Okay.
And we'll have Primar 13 join in as well. So what do you think?
Taco Fangs is my hero. The new assets are great. The thing I'm going to things like I went to the thread that they have on the forums where people are using all of the new assets to do really cool and interesting things and ridiculously great. But in one of those threads I saw, or one of those posts I saw, Kirkfat mentioned it took him 117 foot stretch of hallway trying to use these assets. Basically, I feel like almost in ways, no, actually in ways that they're not intended. I don't even think that the people who put them in or who created them would have ever thought that the back of a console was going to be a piece of a wall. The only thing I would encourage is that using them like that, your sets are going to have to be really small if you want to go ahead and use them like that. But for my money, all of the new really cool thing with the water volume on Rurpente, and not volume, they're planes. They're my favorite thing, is the new water planes. Absolutely. Those are super fun to play with. And the other thing is, I have a set that is on Earth Space Dock, and having all of the new props and the new kind of consoles, and my goodness, the sittable chair seen in that map look better than it used to. So I think these new assets are absolutely glorious.
If we could just pause things for a moment, I think we're having some issues with the stream.
The fact that I forgot to turn off the title slate.
Yeah, well, there's that.
The Netflix Verizon war.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe I've...
We're getting... The airways are streaming stuff from E3.
Oh, that's true. That's all right now. Huh?
So you're telling me it could entirely be not my fault?
Could be, but we're still going to blame it on you.
Yeah, they're saying everyone is better, so I think we'll probably go along with the show.
We can probably move on.
Move along. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, Primar. We're going to ask you what do you think of the new assets?
I'm saying I'd vote for Taco Fangs for best Foundry creator for the Foundry Challenge.
That's a good segue, actually, because we should talk about the Foundry Challenge. Last I'm drawing a blank here. Captain Smirk announced that the voting period had opened. or a news announcement. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
I'm just going to say they were probably lost in the fire.
Fire at the PWE office in I don't know. It's somewhere around the San Francisco area. I'm not sure where, but somewhere. It was like early in the week, but who knows what happens? I've told, or I tweeted Captain Smirk, told him about what was going on, and we will.
Then wasn't there apparently a network outage there Friday?
Possible. Very possible.
Yeah, a day or two later they lost internet, and I think he lost it at home too.
I think I would probably like wither and die if that happened to me.
I would just go for.
I'm jacked in, man. I can't go for a walk. It's storming like crazy. Anyway, really, that's. People have just been diving into using the new assets. But there was one specific question I wanted to ask you to weigh in on, Hippie. Week?
I did.
Okay.
Which topic did you want my opinion on?
Well, a little bit at the end, I talked about filling threads with requests that are supposed to be about new assets that we have actually gotten might come off as disrespectful. I would want to know.
I agree with you. I would fall back on what I always think about the forums can be in the forums. You can start a thread that just says, "Hey, thank you. That was nice and it made me happy." And someone will have turned it into their personal crusade about "I want this" or "I want," or "You're stupid," or the forums are the way that the internet works. It's very, very difficult to avoid disrespect, whether it's intentional, unintentional. People see that something great just happened for the Foundry. We got all of these cool new assets. Taco Fangs is the one who didn't know he's reading. Let's ask for this. And they don't even think about how it. They don't even. So take it with a grain of salt is what I think. But yes, I do agree that there is an element of disrespect that is probably.
So we hope that maybe we can be forgiven for it.
Yeah,
I would say yeah. I would say I hope that we can be forgiven for it. That it's disrespectful, most likely. So.
Yeah, I got to thinking about it over the weekend, and really, in the grand scheme, if you look at like every patch notes, something like this, usually occurs, and oftentimes it's way nastier. So I don't think in the grand scheme of things that it's that big of an insult. And certainly it's not outside of par for the course on the internet and the forums.
That's a really good point. It's usually way nastier. This is, and it's not. Yeah, it's usually way nastier when it devolves. So.
The chat room is still reporting audio skipping.
Mm-hmm.
But it's strange. When I turn on the audio on the stream, I can't quite hear anything. Any skip.
It may just be that there's a lot of network lag going on. Especially E3 is going on right now. Different. Internet's kind of weird. It's made up a lot.
Stream E3.
Yeah.
Not just network wide, it's Twitch is getting hammered.
Oh, that is true. That
certainly might be part of it.
I don't know. I could always, one of these days, try switching over to YouTube. Although, every time I've ever seen YouTube stream, it's always a horrible thing. So, I don't know if it'll be any better.
Well, I think if you don't think there's anything we can do on your end, then we just soldier ahead.
We will soldier on, I
Yeah,
think.
everything looks good on my end. I mean, I'm not seeing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, in 61 episodes, or 62 now, we're bound to have a few technical glitches here and there.
Yeah, why are they always my fault, though?
You're our IT guy. Of course it's your fault.
This afternoon, management. Somebody was like, "Hey, Hippie, who's the guest?" I was like, "I'm not in charge of that."
Well, let's see. So let's move on to what we've been working on. So, Hippiejohn, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Been working on with one person, and apparently he's in our chat room, so that means he's listening, which is cool. Hey, Rogue Enterprise, how are you? That you favorited Drogon when I said I don't care if basically I don't care if you like the Deferi or not. I have a story to tell that involves them and inspired. I have been working on maps like crazy, and I'm doing something. Created my mission in the Foundry for the challenge, which is when I get in there, I look up from what I'm doing and realize that it is hours have passed and I've been doing nothing but create this map and work on characters and work on dialogue. And I actually, a couple, when Sir Boulevard was on, we talked about what characters were okay to use and what characters were not. And I'm going to share the beginning of this mission design of Earth Space Dock, and I'm scared to use this in this way, because I know that if they ever update it again and of Admiral Quinn's office, instead of standing there right next to him, this piece of dialogue wouldn't work anymore. But I have the and if she starts to give you your orders, I've created my own version of Admiral Quinn so that I can have his face pop up, and while she's in the midst of starting to give you, and then the next dialogue box is Quinn popping in with, "The Admiral can speak for himself in his own office. Basically he's standing right next to him, and there's a good-natured back and forth between them, and it doesn't last long. It's not a huge scene, not a huge part of things. I found that because the rest of the mission is very, very much about character. It's a very character-driven. I'm talking to an NPC on a Cryptic map, I wanted even that to contain a tiny bit of interplay that's, seems to right away be like, we're doing character kind of thing. The mission is very on my part, and I hope that when people play it, they forgive me that one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to replace their XO. And I have a mission out past Deferi space that deals with the Breen. So I don't want to talk too much about it until I keep getting excited doing the holy crap, I've been in the Foundry for hours, how did that happen kind of thing. So it's really, really, yeah. I don't care if you don't like the Deferi.
And the reason I favorited that is because I actually do like the Deferi.
I got nothing against the Deferi. Although I would do think the orb ground zone would be better on Vega.
Primar, you have a good suggestion here.
I'd say Quinn assigned you someone.
That's what it is. It is temporarily assigned to you. The Exo is a Deferi character that is. So there's a lot of good story reason for it, but she is really important, and it gives me that one important a story, especially for a game that I know the player is going to be making some choices about what to do, and I need to artificially drive board into one specific area. I like to have a character that can help me do that, and in this case, more than one role in a lot of very important ways. So
This is why we have Tovin Kev.
Yeah, you just got to be careful with that you're not. It's not just an excuse to not use the bridge officers, and that it's well integrated into the story.
Yeah, I think people will enjoy her. I hope they do.
And you're going to probably get a laugh out of this. Is what you're essentially doing is you're giving us a Shelby.
Yes. Except,
and I know how.
Gosh, she's so much not like Shelby.
Well, personality-wise, sure, but
right. But,
it's in terms of what the character does for the story.
Right. Very much so. While I didn't like the character, I have said, even when I've talked about Shelby, while I didn't love the character, I did love the character's place in the show. And you were supposed to not like Shelby. They succeeded with me. So.
How did you feel about Shelby at the end of part 2?
I loved her.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're essentially taking the same journey with that character that Riker is.
Right. You're supposed to. Yeah.
End.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said one of my favorite things. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me at the end, I was that they had rescued Picard in the second that episode. I really wanted the show to go forward with Captain Riker and Commander Shelby.
Yeah, although my brother and I have been going through the TNGs, it's kind of the journey, and we just got up to Redemption, and Picard is just full of so much awesome. I mean, just the way he responds, and that he's got the best lines.
Missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
But I with Captain Riker.
It
could have, but yeah, I mean,
it'd have been different, but
it would have been different. But it I know by the end of part 2 that it happened. But at the end of Best of Both Worlds Part 2, I truly was sad that we went back to status quo. So.
You know what they could have done is use that as or still save Picard, but then spun off a new show with Riker.
Ha.
They must not have quite been thinking spin-offs at the time, but
yeah.
Who else has been working on something?
Yeah.
I haven't been working in the Foundry, but I did do something pretty big related to Star Trek this weekend.
You didn't you?
I went to Star Trek Chicago. And I was there the whole weekend. I even wore my Foundry Roundtable shirt, although nobody recognized me specifically because of it.
We're a small niche show, you wouldn't necessarily expect.
I did meet a couple of Stowe players, a couple of fine folks from the Omega Rangers fleet. They even gave me a nice patch. Got to see lots of Star Trek actors. Got to meet the TNG writer of Inner Light, Morgan Grendel. He wouldn't give me an interview though. I guess I'm not actually not very good at asking for interviews. But he wasn't mean about it, so. And we did chat for a little bit.
So what?
Mostly kind of asked him about, writing his episodes. Asked him what his favorite one to write was, which interestingly enough was, the I'm blanking on the name, but the episode of TNG where Picard is trapped on the Enterprise with a baryon sweep?
Starship Mine or something like that?
So apparently that was his favorite to write. Which I can kind of see it.
Oh, you just got all echoey.
And quiet.
Quiet, yeah.
I did?
Yeah, just on the Skype call, so not even through the stream.
I don't have no idea. I'm probably overtaxing something. Oh well.
Rogue Enterprise says he based Clean Sweep, one of his missions, off Starship Mine. Doing a I haven't played that episode, but doing a baryon sweep in the Foundry must be interesting.
I kind of wanted to do a scene where recreate the static warp bubble from Remember Me, where you have you're running and you have the ship disintegrating behind you. Do something with like those blue cloud effects and maybe a bunch of reach markers.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I might have to play Rogue's mission and see how he did it.
Be a bunch of reach markers
Force field.
in horizontal field.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely a lot of fun.
Report from Star Trek. How is it going to a convention? Is it a lot of fun?
Extremely nerve-wracking. Despite the fact that I get on a podcast every week, I'm actually a pretty shy individual. So just kind of opening up was very difficult for me. That said, when I did, I usually had fun.
Did you go with anybody?
I did. I had a couple of friends who also play Sto, who went with me. So it was kind of the reason I wanted to go to this one is just because I had friends who had never been to a convention that were going, and so it was a lot of fun. Just it was kind of helped to kind of have people there to that you already knew. But that just said, I also kind of got to meet a few new people. I got to meet I don't know if anybody follows it here. First time Trekker.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, it's a her.
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet her in person, which is really cool. She's very nice.
She's someone who's been sort of tweeting as she watches Star Trek.
Yes. Yes, and I was very much told up front not to give any spoilers.
Not like I did, where I spoiled the ending of Enterprise for talking.
Yeah.
I only did a little bit, and of course, the end of Enterprise doesn't relate to anything in the rest of Enterprise. So,
yeah. Other ending of Enterprise.
The other ending of Enterprise,
the one we're stuck with, no matter how much you hate it.
The one that's really an episode of TNG.
Canon?
It's a lost episode of TNG, is what it is.
Except Troy and Riker are older.
Rogue was asking, did you get to ask any as they were on stage?
I didn't ask any questions. I think the lines were pretty long, and honestly, I didn't really have anything pressing to ask. Although when I went up for Robert Beltran's autograph, I did tell him I would have totally supported his takeover of Voyager. And he snickered at that one.
Excellent. That I'm really, really excited. I wish it was the end of July already.
Yeah, I'm actually really bummed that I can't go, just because it would be so awesome to meet everyone.
Oh yeah.
So, what are the chances that I convince you all to go in 2016?
To
Vegas.
Vegas?
because that is the 50th anniversary of Star Trek.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
if there's
let's do it.
Yeah, give me a
Let's
year
do it.
off to save up, and yeah, I'll probably do
that means that we are going to have to keep the show going for the next 2 years.
it. Hey, if they can keep the game going, we can keep the show going, right?
Yeah, I would say that if the game talk about it.
As long as the Foundry's online.
I mean, Priority
by
1's
then
been going
it'll
on
be up.
since the game's inception. It can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, these games have a lifetime of, at least 8 years.
Generally speaking,
The vast
yes.
majority of them, it seems like. Ones like Star Trek Online, Star Wars Galaxies lasted 10 years. World of Warcraft is still going after more than 10 years.
Yeah.
We're only
These
in year
things
4.
last. We're only in year 4.
Yep.
So let's see.
Not much of anything, really.
Somebody has to say that every week, basically. And this week,
It's me.
well, I've only been working on a little bit of stuff. I've been doing a little bit of scripting in some spare time on a follow-up part series, which of course is not up because I keep saying I'm going to redo it and keep putting it off. But with new floors and stuff, I do put some new custom builds and replace a few things in old custom builds because I do have a set that's supposed to be at Starfleet Command, so it should really have some of the new chairs and tables. But one thing I have been doing in the Foundry is redoing a couple of sets from. One of them takes place, so you're out hunting for the Bismarck, and the admiral that's on board, she goes to the holodeck and she recreates this command center and she recreates it on the holodeck. Now I built this thing to look reminiscent of the CIC from Battlestar Galactica. So, which is actually more of a chore than you might think, redoing an old set with new floors. It seems to be very slow going, and new ceilings. It looks great. The red carpet with the tan carpet as sort of a small border along the wall looks fantastic. And new consoles, so that it looks like it is from the kind of the same technology level as ESD. But it's very slow going, and but it should look very nice. And I don't know. I think it's sort of a good way to integrate the new assets without going overboard, like Hippie said.
Right when we had that whole mini-map bug where the reach markers were always off and I couldn't get through
Yes,
it.
and there was no way to complete that one without the reach markers. But that's season 8 bug
I don't remember how long ago it was.
or Legacy Romulus maybe.
No, it had to have been 8. I wasn't for Legacy Run this, but not by much.
Well, luckily enough, that one is fixed. We hope it doesn't ever break again. We don't want to repeat. So let's see, Hippie, you have a mission review for us.
I do. This afternoon, I said, hey, I need a mission to review for this week, and the mission you pointed me to is JohnnySnowball's new mission, which he... let me turn the page back here. It is called Blast to the Past, Saving Gideon is the name of the mission. And it is... So the first thing I should say is that and making the mission. Johnny asked me to play test. This was the mission that I was asked to play test through combat. That this is one of those that's set up that there is a combat on a rooftop that it's a horribly difficult combat. I beat it by accident this time. He asked me when I tested it, he was like, please try your best to level 50 tactical officer into it, tried it 4 times and didn't win, and said, you know what, I can't do it. You've created a... This afternoon, I'm playing through the mission to review it, and I broke his mission by beating the combat. And I did that with engineers. So I'll get to how I think he might be able to improve on making that unwinnable. But up until that point, this is a time travel story that I couldn't take really seriously. And mainly that I meet, or I'm walking by a character that is called Security Beefcake. It's this huge guy, and that right away. I caught that the sense of humor, the way that things were going to go, seemed to be... I said to myself, I'm good with that. I can go with being tongue-in-cheek and seeing how this... And that said, it's an interesting time travel premise that, unfortunately, it's not a premise that I think I would ever actually in a Star Trek show. But it's really fun. And he even makes a call out in the dialogue. It's a very quantum leapy sort of thing. Blast. The whole idea behind it, the whole thing is just a blast. You get to go back to the original Enterprise, and the way that he presents it is really cool. There's a scene that he presents to you where he needs you to feel like you're on a covered in people. Their population is out of control, and he does that really well. When I first played through it, the area that you have to go, I suspect that possibly to save on NPCs for the mission, he had to cut it down a little bit, which was fine, actually. The playthrough of it, time that you had to spend fighting your way through a crowd, and it was really well done. And right up until I broke the mission, a really good time. You know, minor little quibbles aside, those quibbles were things like, at first, when I first encountered someone called on here, you know, this does it, can I really? And then once I suspended that amount of disbelief, I had a great time. Now, where I broke, he does a really smart thing in using I think it's the Hippiejohn mobs that spawn the holographic holographic versions and make themselves ridiculously difficult to fight. And he used those to great advantage because while your attention is focused on these guys in front of you and from behind you, and the fight just goes to heck. Now, I was playing this with an engineer, and the first thing I ever do, I anticipate to be the battlefield, I set up a medical generator and I put it behind a cover shield so that that medical generator will still be standing at the end. Once a fight begins, I try to fall back to that position. And then when I did that, this was an away team that I keep near that I run on it, and the roof just very quickly got covered in phaser turrets and quantum mortars, and there was no spot on the roof that the enemies were not under attack by something that wasn't me. Locations apparently draw the aggro of all of those enemies, which made them super easy. Then I could shoot them. And what I would suggest there is that second group of that exact same kind of enemy beam in if the first group is destroyed, even at the same time, because the reason that I accidentally won the fight was because I was far enough back that fighting things that were not me. So I needed to have, there was an invisible wall behind me that I don't know whether I wasn't paying attention wall or whether it was an invisible wall that he put there. But I think if it is one that he put there that he can slide farther back, he needs to slide it farther there in order to make it unbeatable. That's my best advice. But the mission is a lot of fun, and if you don't win that combat, more crazy and more fun. So I give it a big thumbs up, and I'm going to play it again and purposely lose that combat. So before the show, and that's all, that's all I can, that's what I can say about it based on the playthrough. Defeated his combat, because it even shows me in my objective list that my next objective was to talk to someone that would obviously spawn, which there's a lot of really great technical stuff like that in there too, where entire maps will shift around me and it is seamless. Win, and I didn't even realize. I kept trying to push the button to go to the rooftop because I didn't realize I had already gone there. It's seamless work, fun stuff. So
I know I have one of those no-win scenario battles in part 2, and yeah, I did all sorts of things like ambushing the player from front and back. I don't beam in. I wait until the last minute to beam in the enemies so they don't see it coming. And then on top of it, I have a visible wall to cut them off so they can't escape. And then, just to top it all off, in the event that they somehow manage to beat multiple captain mobs attacking them from all sides, I even put in a special trigger that basically is you broke the mission, congrats, here's how you fix it.
Yeah, I don't think that most people run an away team that has 3 engineers on it.
No, not
normal.
But you're on the top of my short list for beta testing.
Yeah, see if you can kill Hip.
Well, no, here's the thing that is really weird. I tested this for him with a max level, really geared out, has the reputation stuff, and couldn't beat the fight. This was a lower level engineering tune that just I'm running a really weird away team with. And that the fight was won was because of the really strange away team.
Yeah, you hadn't mentioned that it was a level 40 engineer yet. You mentioned it before.
Right. That the difference is when I tested it with a max level, fully geared character, couldn't beat it, and then this afternoon I was playing who has a weird away team, and all of the gear on the ship and the away team is nothing but common gear. So it the actual failure there is the failure in testing multiple levels of Foundry. We can't test multiple levels of people fighting our missions. So
Yeah, and I think there's even limitations to how far they could even take that. There will always be fringe cases.
Yeah, you're never going to know what build somebody is going to use when they come in to your mission. So it's tough to balance for everybody.
yeah.
So overall, what did you think? You thought it was good?
Overall, I think he's advertising it absolutely super. The announcement on the forums has these 4 posters that look like old 1940s World War II recruitment posters, and they're just super fun. So,
And I thought about making some of those for, like my Starbase 1 mission, the Hollow History mission.
mm-hmm.
I made.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that it was. At first, I was thrown off by meeting someone called Security. I accepted the level of. There is a level of humor that is exactly right for me in this mission. It reminds me of old British comedy. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, JohnnySnowball is actually British.
Well, there you go. That's what I would say. That once I knew that that's what I was in for, and I realized that very quickly. It wasn't like I had to. Oh.
Now, his other mission, Shore Leave Under Siege, I reviewed it a while back, and it's one of the only ones I can remember in recent history giving me. So yeah, this is on my list to play for sure because I am a big fan of this author.
Yeah, I would imagine it because I broke it. But I would imagine that this would have gotten 4 stars, maybe 5 stars from me. I had little things that bothered me that I forgot about 2 minutes later. Yeah, 5 stars from me. I don't know yet. I'll be finishing it maybe later. I don't know. Maybe later today.
Well, what do you guys do when you can't finish a mission for any particular reason?
Well, definitely report it to the author.
And I drop it and go back and try it again. Sometimes right away. Like in this case, I knew what I did. I broke as soon as the last. So I didn't have time to go back and start the mission over again. But I will go back and play it again and to see if there's something I could have done differently that wouldn't break the mission, because I always want to finish what I started when I'm playing a Foundry mission.
There's one in recent memory that comes up that I didn't finish, and it was more because of a design decision on the part of the author and realizing how long the mission would take, and so I'd started playing it at night, and it was really, really, really late by the time I gave up. I can't remember who it was, but it was the guy who made. And of course, if you fell off it, you had to start way back at the beginning. So I don't know. That was just I reached the end of my rope on that one. Rating, but I warned people in the review that says this has this jumping puzzle. It is long. Know that going in.
I'll give it a star rating. That's a guarantee. I won't star it and I won't comment. I'll try to contact the author some other way, like through in-game mail or something.
Strategy to take.
I mean, we know they're at handles, right? It's not that
This
hard
is true,
to
yeah. Especially if it's one of us, because of course, we're either on Twitter or in the in-game chat room or in the Starbase UGC chat.
Yeah,
All of us.
and of course, it's always easy to contact the author via in-game message.
In email. Yes. So let's see, Hippie, you had a...
It's a question. I don't know. It may blossom into a topic. So some is that I don't personally know how long it took Taco Fangs to get the part of our asset list. I don't know how long that took, but every time that I hear the management, it's time scheduled to work on putting something in the Foundry. I'm sure that Captain Gecko doesn't make that decision himself. I don't know. I consider Captain Gecko the management. He's the one that we get to talk to because our new executive producer, the new EP of the game, is not. That's fine. But every time that I hear Captain Gecko talk about improvements to the Foundry, he's always talking about the nudger that they can get into the Foundry coming over from Neverwinter and all of that. Now, I'm wondering if there is a disconnect between what we want and what we really want. And to bring this back to all of that stuff that Taco just put in the Foundry, I have no idea how long it took him. A poll. Everyone would be joyous and happy about having all of this new stuff. That's the kind of things that we need in order to create more things. Now, sure, there are little things like maybe, hey, can we raise our asset limit? Is that things like that? But the truth is, really, just getting all of those new assets has made everyone so happy. That's the kind of update. Necessarily all of the new technology, but for some reason I think that the people who are making the decisions about what time goes into giving us stuff.
My thoughts are, he always talks about the nudger, and I'm thinking here, if they brought in this nudger, how many missions would break?
Tons.
If they brought this, it'd pretty much knock out everything. We'd have to re-edit pretty much every mission in there if they didn't all break.
Which
and
I
plus,
think
how much
might...
downtime would we...
Which access are you thinking that we would get?
I always hear that when they're always talking the axis, we want to rotate things horizontally would be great.
Yeah, there's 2 more accesses we don't have access to. That said, by default, they're all set to 0.
But so what I'm wondering is, like, I know that everyone out all of these new toys. This is like our toy box didn't get any new cool to play with the toys, but we got dozens of new toys. That's kind of a metaphor in my mind for something to use to create missions to play with. Sure, it took Kirkfat 117 assets or whatever ridiculous number. Tell you what, if someone can come up with a map that can use a 20-foot hallway that has 117 assets, look cool
Well,
when it happens. These are all new. These are all new Lego blocks we get to build with. I mean, that has me personally so excited. I mean, I got super excited when we got a freaking Jeep toy. It's like this are what what I think a lot of the community is looking for.
Yeah,
Not,
I would caution you against saying it's what everyone is.
I am looking for, and what I think a lot of the community is looking for. It's what I think, and that's why I want to open it up as a conversation topic. Update the thing that we're really looking for.
well, last week you actually kind of got into this a little bit, and what I was kind of saying was that we don't need bigger updates. We need more targeted updates. One of the things that made this such a huge success is it contained two things that are huge to everyone, and that is water and floors. And you were asking how much time did Tumor Boy spend on assets? According to him, not a lot. And I get this strong impression that it was less than a day.
I also got the impression that he sort of did it on his own.
Yeah. So, I mean,
That may or may not be true, but it seemed like he wasn't told to do it. He just did it.
yeah. And it's one of those things that I think what makes this one so big is that, like I said, it does contain some of those really targeted, useful things.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the last big asset update we got was the Latinum update, which Latinum is kind of cool, and we can find uses for it, but we can't find a lot of uses for it.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, we can't find a lot of uses for it. True.
Big pile.
My point is that what everyone's getting really excited about, though, is that the fact that there's just so much usability in what we just got. So, like I said, I mean, my point from last week was that we don't need bigger updates. We just need more targeted updates. And I don't... What...
There's pretty much everyone can use that. Not that many people use Latinum.
But I mean, even...
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
I had to stretch to find a use for it. You're right.
Well, at the time I was building my Ractigino in a jar because it deals with Ferengi and a load of Latinum. So I had to use crates at the time, and of course it's Spotlight again.
Updates though, because part of this Dragoon to me feels like it was an Earth space stock update because all of those assets are together probably in some kind of...
Yeah. Partially, but also in that looking for assets that are in high demand. I mean, every single author I know has their own list of assets, and some of them are hyper-specific, and some of them are widely usable.
Okay.
So it's just,
Almost everybody's list was water and floors.
Yeah.
Floors/ceilings.
Yeah, and it was at the top of the list of those that top 50 assets list that we made a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Which Tumor Boy was there commenting on what was and wasn't feasible at the time.
Yeah, we did get some input from him, as I recall.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a case of we just need to be better about marketing our needs. Because I mean, we tend to sound like a chorus of very divergent voices. So
yeah,
more like a shouting mob rather than a chorus.
Exactly. I mean, have you guys seen how
Chorus
scary?
implies some order.
Yeah. Have you guys seen how scary the asset request thread is? It's massive, and it makes no
Giant.
logical sense at all.
Going back to what Hippie said about Captain Gecko, is I think part of the reason that he talks so much about systems and features he works on. And
Right,
one of
he's a
the
systems
comments, one of the comments that Taco made a while back is that as far as the Foundry goes, So, obviously he knows map objects because that's what he does. Gecko knows systems and that sort of thing because that's what he does. He knew costumes. He knew a little bit about costumes in the Foundry because that's what he does.
Right.
So I mean, it always.
I think maybe he.
Yeah.
That was my impression.
And it's one of those things I just kind of wish that there was a little bit more of a. There was someone who didn't necessarily know how to do any of these specific things, but kind of had a general idea of where things are, what kind of. What are the greater needs? What are the lesser needs? What can be done in a short amount of time? That sort of thing. I mean, just someone to kind of be the voice, the unified
leadership.
voice. Yeah.
Leadership.
It needs leader. The Foundry needs leadership on Cryptic's end.
Yeah. And the same token, I mean, floors have been one of those things that we have been pounding repeatedly for a long time. But I mean, overall, I think really we kind of need. I mean, if there isn't that kind of leadership on Cryptic's end, do we kind of need to form some kind of consensus on our end?
Sort of like I don't know. Council. I've seen those in other games.
Yeah, I mean something like that. I mean, just
so essentially come together and work things out. Right now, this is the next thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an idea. That's for sure.
And then Cryptic, when they get time, just takes a little bit of time and tries to work at that. And then once we get an asset, we move on, try to come up with a new and reassess. Another thing I was kind of thinking about over the week is how many devs actually, because I mean, especially with devs being hyper-focused, how many of the right devs come to the Foundry forums? Because the Foundry isn't really the direct purview of any one particular dev.
Right.
Yeah.
At most, usually it's Cryptic Frost that comes in, keeps an eye on the bug section. But yeah, I mean, if we wanted to ask, say, for the Odyssey uniforms, are we asking in the right place? Because all of the devs who could put it in there and take the time aren't really frequenting that because that isn't their area.
And that's why I stuck a thread over in the it's been long buried now, but I stuck a thread over in the costume forum just to see if that would get. Think that, I mean, even Taco Fangs, he comes in occasionally, but I think he's on to the next thing now, so he's probably not checking the Foundry forum.
Yeah. I mean,
I assume he's probably on to his next thing, which is probably heavily to do with expansion 2.
Yeah, and Taco Fangs, I mean, is incredibly outgoing for a dev. So, I mean, of anyone, he's likely to wander into some area that isn't specifically his little.
And also, they always make the point that just because they haven't replied to a thread doesn't mean they haven't seen it, which is very true.
I mean, yeah, look how long we've been asking for some of these things, and now have it. But obviously, things don't happen overnight, and it may be some time before dev free time even frees up.
And of course, it always has to fit within their plans. You can suggest the best idea in the world, but if they don't think it fits within their plan,
I know. I mean, I kind of want to open that up as a community question, as the idea of a player-derived Foundry Council. What do people think? I mean, what do you guys think would constitute setting up such a thing? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea?
Who would you put on it? That's another question.
Exactly. Because I mean, essentially, I mean, you're
everything.
Yeah, put your ideas out there. That's
let's
a great community question.
I can tell you how it works in. Let's see. EVE Online has one. I believe that's elected. I'm not quite sure. Lord of the Rings Online has one. To the community manager, and I think he makes the choice, or there might be some other people in on that decision. Old Republic has an interesting one where they have essentially, they call them class representatives, where they choose 3 people for each class, and those people get, to most pressing questions from the communities to the devs. Which is an interesting way to do it. But there's also from people, and maybe this is a better way to put a more cohesive message in front of Cryptic.
Yeah.
So I guess that turned out to be a bigger.
Honestly, at this point, we're just kind of spitballing.
Yeah, but spitballing
a little
is
bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we just had the first asset update, the first update to the Foundry, in God knows how long. So
Right.
I mean, it's got us thinking, and it's got us, thinking, maybe there, some attention on the Foundry, even from the people who weren't directly involved in that update.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, if a player council would only be useful if Cryptic actually finds value in it.
Yes,
Otherwise, we're just
Right.
very much so.
otherwise we're
Right.
just
See-
continuing to make lists.
Yes,
I would see it as the kind of thing is that whoever was on that council, what you would really want to be doing is what the community's top requests are, and that includes, I rarely visit the forums unless people say, "Hey, go check." Really, really get bored, I'll go there. But, Mark can go to the forums, for example, and talk to the Foundry authors that are there, because and a lot of people, I guess. That to me means that whoever that council is needs to and try to find the cohesive pieces, like you were saying, Dragoon. So many people were asking for volume objects of water and flow.
Yeah.
We need to know, we need that to be, that's certainly not tops on everyone's list, but boy, it's a cool thing that a lot of that council has to be able to present.
and you want to make sure that there's always, every time I see one of these player councils, there's always some charge of favored players who kiss the right what's behinds and charges like that. So you want people who are very accessible as good people, and I think we have a lot of people like that to choose from, because I think one of the great things about the Foundry community is we have such.
Do. So who else has a topic for us to talk about tonight? Bueller?
All right, I'm gonna throw out one.
That one? All right, go for it.
What is one cool Foundry idea that you've always wanted to do but have never found a use for?
Space drop, like in the Star Trek 2009, and because obviously falling damage doesn't hurt you, so you could do something like a space jump. I haven't found a use for it yet, but could be interesting.
Okay. Maybe
What do you guys think? How would you do that?
I'd pick whatever ground map I could find that had the absolute highest Y value I could get to. And
Yep, that'd definitely be a given.
because some of the maps don't have as high a Y value, so that's going to be important.
Maybe you could do something with a high fog, so they can't see the ground until it comes right up at them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Yep.
I thought about if we could do horizontal invisible planes, you could hold the person in mid-fall. Although that would be tricky to work.
For whatever reason, the transporters don't work. From somewhere that has a transporter.
Yeah. Interference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden the shuttles blew up.
Ooh, maybe you had to escape from a shuttle that was blowing up.
Do that before. Jump from something that was blowing up onto a ground map. I can't remember whose mission that was, but it was.
Yeah, you could do some fun stuff with trigger with reach markers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, do reach markers trigger when you?
Yeah, they should, as long as you
They should,
don't
yeah.
start inside it when it activates.
Yeah.
If you
Mhm.
enter it for any reason, it'll trigger.
Because they're supposed to be spherical, right?
Yeah.
You'll get, even as you're falling, if you're pushing any of your directional keys, you'll keep moving.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, unless you
So
use
you
invisible
gotta-
walls.
you gotta
You
make it big
can
enough.
use
Jump and then
you can use invisible walls
Visible
to form a
walls
shoot.
to make a shoot.
Right.
Captain PF Dennis is saying Ally Mac did it with a turbo lift shaft. That doesn't surprise
Oh yeah.
me. He's already done
Yeah, that's true.
it.
There's a reason he's my favorite author.
Something I've always kind of wanted to do was I had this idea for because while I was working on part 2, there's this one scene where I wanted to mobilize the player, so I created a grid of invisible walls to try and get them trapped inside of it when it spawns. Only every time that I would fire off this or trigger this grid of invisible walls, it would cause the player to respawn. So I kind of got to thinking about that as a way of like reliably causing the player to jump to the respawn point. And then I kind of thought about the fact that your bridge officers don't go with you. And you could use that as a trick to separate the player from their bridge officers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually thinking of, what if you were to have a scenario where you go to a point, you trigger it, and this invisible wall lattice comes in, forces you, the character or the main player character, to respawn into, say, like a cell nearby, and then the rest of the mission is them, like trying to escape from the cell and go through and find the rest of their bridge officers who have not moved but are using triggers now look like they are in a cell of their own, and so you have to go through and find your bridge officers and
that'd be
rescue them.
fun.
I don't have a use for it, but it sounds like a really cool idea.
I would have used to have said, because I like to say that I'm not very good at all of the cool Foundry tricks. My answer very recently would have been, I've always wanted you warp into a system and suddenly the system appears all around you. In Mayhem Episode 3. Very recently, I put that together, and man, I'm really happy with it, and it was super fun to do and learn. But now, I think that I'd like to do in the Foundry that I've both never found a use for and wouldn't know exactly how. Probably is the turning enemies in, or turning without making it very obvious, turning a person, you're talking to someone as an ally, turning them into an enemy, replacing them, using the NPC with an enemy mob and doing it. I'd like to find a way to do that seamlessly. That would be the new thing that I want to learn how to do.
The only way I usually do it in that scenario is with invisible walls. So
Right.
they're always an enemy, but they're surrounded.
Well, it's
Wall, so if they can't see you, they won't shoot you,
right.
and you can't shoot them.
Yeah, it's
have a situation in part 2 where you enter a room and there are enemies within it, but you can choose to try and fake your way and pretend and trick them. And if you succeed, then they actually swap out with friendly versions. And I can use those target captain groups that don't have a beam-in animation to do that. But if you fail, the wall drops and they attack you. So it's kind of backwards, but it works.
Yeah, or things I don't know how to do yet that I really want to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one that I'm planning earlier this week to me on Tribble. And I cannot honestly remember who suggested it to me, so I'm sorry for that. But is you fluidic space on like an interior map. So essentially, it's like an Undine interior, and you're going to have to. I'm going to have to ask the player to get in their EV suit.
Right on.
Yeah. The only trouble with the Warrior volume is that it doesn't have any viscosity.
Well, I think if you put part of what you can do is put the low grav effect on. Not much else you can do, but
Yeah.
you can do that. You can do that at least.
Right.
But yeah, no, because part of what I want to do in the next mission after is have an interior of a planet killer.
Oh, nice.
And have it be
Just fight
Right
back
on.
with the.
and I can do that now.
Yay! Somebody was actually playing around with trying to do that on the in the thread showing off the stuff they were doing with the new assets. It was very blue.
I'm sure. I have not experimented at all with it yet, but it's something I want to do.
I think it will be too. That sounds really great.
And I'd have to have some sort of airlock where it goes from like your ship to the planet killer, and you descend into the stuff.
The volume has very definitive edges, so I mean, you could have it literally stop right at the airlock.
Let's see, Primar, do you have anything that you've always wanted to do but never found, to actually do it?
I don't know. I've never published a mission.
Well, geez, get cracking.
Completed missions.
Ah, there you go.
Man after Drogon's own heart.
Yes, indeed. Start many projects, finish few.
You know what? I'll say of earlier that after playing Johnny's, like when I play tested it for him, I sped through, didn't read a lot of the dialogue because I was. But when I played through it, played through a lot of the dialogue and everything else, and I deleted one of the missions I was working on. Because Johnny already did the idea and he did it better than I probably could have. So, yeah. My mission list, when I open up the Foundry, it's full of uncompleted things that trouble me.
I also want to start up a new segment for you where we basically talk about how we would do some theoretically impossible task that isn't in the normal function of Foundry.
We'll have to ask our listeners to suggest.
Theoretically impossible tasks.
Yeah.
That's
because
just known as our thread in the forums where we're doing all our items with these fancy new assets.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there aren't hard and fast limitations of the Foundry, but there are ways to fudge off them.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
whenever someone asks a question in the Foundry forums, my response is, no, you can't do this. How? Because it seems like there's always some other way to accomplish what you want, even if it's not exactly what you want.
Yeah, and oftentimes
Yeah.
you can do like slight alterations of the parameters to get it to work.
Yeah, you got to be flexible to
Mm-hmm.
be a Foundry author, I think. All thing I wanted to talk about tonight, which is the place that we're sitting in, which of course is Ryza, the Ryza Resort. This is the new section,
yes.
the promenade. So a lot of people, this is a very polarizing thing, is the issue of whether or not you should be able to use swimwear anywhere else besides Ryza. I personally fall on the side of, you should just use it on Ryza. But could not the Foundry be another avenue for that? Have some way swimwear in the Foundry, on a Foundry map.
I think it kind of falls into the same thing as floaters.
Yeah.
They would need to put a way for us to flag those maps as okay. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you can find
And there's
it,
actually,
them
a lot of,
for it.
and not just swimwear, that this could be an avenue for, as you mentioned, floaters, and the whatchamacallit, we've always said EV suits, of course, because we can't require people to do EV suits, but maybe if they put in a thing that says we.
That'd be a great little tag.
But I mean, it seems to me that the Foundry can be an avenue to alleviate some of these concerns, that
keeping in mind that
restrictions.
we don't actually know how hard, technically, any of these things would be to add.
Right.
Oh, of course, I have no idea.
But I also estimating the I think that it's overestimating.
Want to put into it?
No, the I don't think it will alleviate the community's concerns.
No, because they want to be running around Earth space dock in their bikinis.
They are in their bikinis and whatnot, and I
So,
get
I mean,
it.
this is a compromise measure. It's not like
Yeah.
Now, one point about that is the Ryzen duty officers that ball. You've pretty much agreed now that any SDF is going to start with you activating a disco ball to give your whole team a buff to dodge.
It seems like there was a prankster in the dev team that came up with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they all agree with that. They pretty much made it perfectly clear in the featured episode that those aren't going away.
Yeah, no.
always said that they liked those. I mean, it came over from Champions Online, I think it was Taco who said, we love these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the
I
record,
love them.
yeah, I'm perfectly fine with them. It doesn't faze me at all if somebody wants to throw them.
I find them kind of stupid, but I find them also easily ignorable.
Right.
I can just keep on walking. It doesn't hurt me any. Live and let live, right?
Exactly.
I find things that are stupid. If I can ignore them, then I don't care.
No, then again, I never found the green biothermal dampeners to be annoying either.
So I guess here's part of it is that now we attribute that we can, and I get that. For me, it's a game that I'm playing. Other people are playing the game, and they'll have fun playing the game. But I do understand the player that when they log into a public queue special task force. Now, a lot of people are just grinding them out because they want their marks or whatever. But there's the player out there who, when they beam in not they want to be in that character of going after the Borg, and to have somebody go running in front of them in a bright blue through in a Speedo is going to disrupt their play experience, and I get that. I get that, and I get that the sort of a scenario, like, you know, in the spot where there's no one attacking you for the moment, someone drops one of those. I can get where that make someone uncomfortable and not like it. I get it.
There's a lot of these games that, you know, people talk about immersion.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's some people who bring it very deeply, and it can be easily disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of bring my own immersion, you know, as I'm,
Right.
you know, running a space map or something, you know, I'm imagining my little crew is in the bridge, you know, shaking about
Exactly.
for the
Like,
camera.
Yeah,
You know, and I, you know, because it's fun for me. It's fun for me. And, you know, the disco ball does not fit my personal definition of, you know, what Star Trek should look like. But I also find it very easily.
Right.
But there's people who are going to be even deeper than that. And that's going to break it for them.
Well, I don't even see, for me, I don't even need to turn. This is, and a lot of people like to say that Star Trek Online is a story about, we're all playing the same. You know, my character went and did surface tension, and I was the hero. At the same time, so was your. It's not that hard for me to shut out any other players when I'm running around, if that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, and I always imagine that, you know, these are other captains and they're having other adventures.
Different adventures, sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because, you know, healthy imagination is, you know, something that's just essential to life, personally.
Yeah.
And I use it whenever I can. Because if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Many characters, because they started being boring, their shows weren't good anymore. And they just weren't inspiring my creativity at all.
Network exec.
Yeah, I am.
I don't know. Now I've got visions of you deleting Malcolm Reynolds and canceling Firefly because it wasn't interesting enough.
Firefly was very interesting. Anything that focuses on character like that will keep my attention. So they would have been safe in my.
So it's a pseudo sci-fi drama.
Yeah.
Something where the sci-fi
no,
is not
that-
actually the focus. It's the characters that are the focus.
That's still technically a
the
true.
characters could
That's
be
still
in-
technically a true sci-fi drama. Yeah, a pseudo sci-fi drama is where the bulk of the story is still like normal every day, but there's like some element thrown into that is of sci-fi in nature. So like the island in Lost, or
I gotcha. Okay.
but the bulk of it will still be kind of taking within the same rules as a normal everyday drama.
Mm.
No, yeah, Firefly is still very much in the sci-fi. I mean, it's taking place on a freaking spaceship.
This is true.
Do that sometimes.
We do that sometimes, but you know, I don't know. Going back to this notion that the Foundry could be a way for people to use these things normally would only be able to use during the summer event, or you could extend it to the winter event. You know, you could give us the ability to have a surface where you can ice skate if you've got the boots.
Case of the floaters, the bikinis, and the power boards, the only thing I would like to see them do, I don't want them to go back to had worked on, in the past. I'm okay with them, leaving things as maps. If there's a map coming up that they're making for a mission that includes a beach or some water or something, use the things that you get in these various events in a mission somehow, even if it's very silly and noticeable to everyone, like the fact that you could use the party balls at the end of Surface Tension. That was cool.
Yeah, they can't make it a mandatory thing in case someone doesn't have it.
Someone doesn't have it, or they could put into a mission like I would think it would be really neat if there was some James Bondy type chase scene, like someone running away on a hoverboard, and in the mission they give me a temporary hoverboard to use just during the mission.
Well, they've done something like that, because that sequence where you're outside of the station and using a floater, which of course you didn't need. It was given to you.
Right.
Yeah, it was built into the spacesuit.
It was a great sequence, I thought.
And I think they can make use of things like that. But I don't want to. I'm one of those people who I'm all for as much. Open it up, let people wear whatever the heck they want. That's my opinion. My personal opinion is I hope I never have to run around in STF with a Gorn and a bright blue bikini.
'Cause I'm pretty sure they don't offer bikinis to Gorn, but
Mankeen.
Yeah, I think they just got that ability to actually wear outfits.
I think it'd be fun if they can, going with what you're saying though, Drogon, I think it would be fun if we make a mission on a Ryza map, have that map tagged that you can use swimwear, you can use floater. It'd be a neat tag for them to give us. I don't know how hard it would be. But
So I'm just going to point out that, unlike the winter event, Ryza is available all year round.
true.
Yeah,
Not
this-
necessarily. Usually you can't access the summer resort.
No, you can.
I was going to ask about that because I wasn't sure.
Uh,
In the Foundry, we just have the regular old Ryza. And I
Yeah.
don't think we'll ever
Right.
get the resort map because they change it every year.
This is true. This section was not here last.
And I bet you next year they'll add something new. They added new things to the winter event. They added new. So I imagine they're going. So I wouldn't mind not.
And I think people expect new things every year,
Yeah.
which of course sometimes paints them.
still, it would be kind of nice to get the social doors hooked up here.
Yes, it will. If it's going to stay all year.
Yeah.
The events and the activities don't stay, but I think this map stays.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you can come down to this map all year long. So if that's true, I think you're right. Those contacts, doors that are on the other map, those should all be accessible here on the social map. You're right, Dragoon.
I don't know, maybe this whole experience with moving the doors over from the SD, though. Hopefully they're not too scared away by it.
Well, I don't know, and actually hooks up new doors.
Right.
Apparently,
be-
Tumor Boy.
It could be Taco, yeah. It could be him. He certainly did it for. If we get some kind of player council going, maybe that could be something that they would decide is the most important thing at this point in time is to get us some new doors. Obviously, we could use some in like the Romulan command center. There's all kinds of places that don't have doors that really should.
And now that we have Feds be able to go into Klingon space and vice versa.
I don't know if they'll change the restriction.
Yeah, that's a larger game change.
And it's also that was there when the game launched, and it might be kind of core to the way things are done.
Especially since
Well,
the vast
we can
majority
now
of the game
win
right now is
second
still.
block.
Yeah, you still start
So
off
it's
before.
it's only everything after surface tension that. Who knows what they'll do in the future? That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, I mean, lots of possibilities.
Let's see. I think this would be a good place to end it. A little early tonight, but that's okay. We can do a little bit of variable time. So,
Okay. You can email us at foundryroundtable@live.com. You can also find the podcast on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab. There's no LE because Twitter sucks and we can only make the name so long. You can follow Drogan at Drogan1701. You can follow Hippiejohn at Hippie_John. And you can follow Markhawkman, although he has yet to ever actually check it, at MAR Hawkman. And you can follow me at Greendragoon. And I'll usually get back to you much faster than Mark.
and speaking of Twitter, I just want to leave everybody with one last thing. If you're on Twitter and you're not following Garrett Wong, the guy who played Harry, he is awesome.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Tweets all kinds of things, all kinds of photos from like the conventions and stuff, and he's just great. And he interacts with Twitter.
Yeah.
And he also likes to blow big spoilers.
Yep.
Yes,
True,
yes, he
very
did. He
true.
did reveal that we're getting.
Yeah, apparently that's news to Gecko.
Funny part is, everyone in my fleet is hoping we're going to see a 65-year-old Ensign Kim.
That we're going to be seeing his voiceover or hearing his voiceover when we get the next expansion and we're heading into the Harry Kim taking the Voyager in there. I think that leading the charge, I think that would be awesome.
I don't necessarily want to see him in Voyager. I want to see him in...
Right,
I was going to say, Tuvok is commanding Voyager, so...
Well, only in surface tension.
No, he says he's
no, no, no. He, if you go into the new
Oh, okay.
missions, the redone ones,
He
yeah,
takes you through a whole mission.
Yeah,
All right.
he's on
All right.
Voyager.
Cool.
You know what Riker's an admiral is you get to choose your own ship.
Yeah,
Well,
that's why I want to see Harry back in the Rhode Island. I want to see the Nova more often.
And Sir Boulevard tweeted Captain Smirk about the player council idea, and he said, "Interesting idea. Got any meeting notes on what the council role and duties would?"
Hey, we're going to be saying goodnight, but I know that we need to get that
Yeah,
community
we'll
feedback.
definitely maybe we'll start a thread.
Yeah, our
See
community
what people
manager is
think.
interested.
It's definitely worth, something I think we should come back to next week.
Mhm.
It's kind
Well, let's
Yeah.
start a thread and we'll see what the community thinks and see what we can get. See where we're at next week.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Sorry about the audio. Hopefully the versions that we put up for download will be good, and hopefully next week we won't have these issues.
And E3 only comes once a year.